Hey guys, welcome back or welcome to my channel. My name is Kate and today I'm going to keep it short and sweet and talk all about the books I read in August because I read 21 books and that is probably the best month I've ever had, so let's talk about it because it deserves a whole video. I won't lie to you, I can't exactly remember the order I read them in, but let's start with the Inheritance Games. So, as you all know, I absolutely freaking love this book. It's probably one of my favourite reads of the whole month. It was amazing, one of the best reads I've read this entire year, and that's kind of what led me on to reading book 2 and 3, and I hopefully will be buying book 4 soon, one day. I ebooked Kindle 2 and 3, but I read it, so I downloaded a PDF version of it. So I'll talk about those in a minute. But the Inheritance Games is about a girl called Avery Grams who comes from nothing to something, solving riddles, puzzles with a subplot of romance, and it is really, really good. And there are 2 other books, and this book was just chef's kiss. It was amazing, so good. And then the same day I carried on reading The Hawthorne Legacy, which I downloaded for free because I actually have no money to buy any more books. I can't afford it. So I had to download it, and I wasn't going to wait anyway to even order it, even if I did have the money. So I was like, you know what, just download it. I'll read it on there. So The Hawthorne Legacy is the development from book 1. It's got more puzzles, more twists, more characters were involved in the series. There's quite a lot of stuff to do with the love triangle between Grayson, Avery and Jameson. That's kind of a big thing in book 2. And then Max is involved a lot, which is Avery's best friend, but I won't spoil anything. But book 2 is probably my favourite book. It was so good, my favourite book out of the series. And then that led me on to reading The Final Gambit, which is book 3 in the series, and I read all of these books in 3 days because it was so good. I read these at the start of the month. It was honestly just amazing. I was gobsmacked. I just can't believe that a person made these books. How did Jennifer Lynn Barnes even come up with these ideas? It's actually brain-boggling. But I really enjoyed the third one. A lot of people on Goodreads said it was their least favourite one in the series, but I really enjoyed it, and without the third one, it wouldn't have made any sense. And a lot of people hate it because of the character Eve who comes into the story, so I won't tell you a lot about Eve because she's a very major part in book 3. But Eve is very selfish. She expects everything from the Hawthorne family, and I can understand why you guys didn't like her, because I didn't either, but without her in the story it would have been nothing, because Eve is very, very important in the last book. Okay, so the next book I read, again, these are in no particular order because I genuinely don't know what order I read them in, is The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. This book is also a big movie. I think it's on Netflix. I haven't watched it, but I don't have Netflix. This book was amazing. I gave it a 5 stars. Definitely one of my favourites I read this month. It was so good. The banter was amazing. I love the characters. I got along with Lucy really well. She was a sunshine character, and then Josh was the grumpy character. It was just amazing, and the feels in this book, it was a giggling worthy book, and I really enjoyed it so much. So if you haven't read this book, just go pick it up. Don't what are you doing? It's so good. It's amazing. Okay, so the next book, I think this was actually the last book I read in the month, but it doesn't matter, was As Good as Dead by Holly Jackson. So this is the 3rd book in the series of the A Good Girl's Guide to Murder series. Oh my freaking goodness, this had me crying on the floor at oh my gosh, late hours. This was so freaking good. It's so hard because I want to keep this a spoiler-free video, so I won't really tell you much about it, but oh my gosh, it's amazing, because this is a book that's really hard to talk about without spoiling it because of the twist. Oh my gosh, oh my goodness, it's amazing. This whole series, and I'm so glad it's turning into a TV show because I'm really excited, and I think if they don't execute the TV show well, this is at least I have my book, so this is a great book, and I definitely recommend the series. It is not overhyped, it is rated how it should be rated, and Holly Jackson, you are one of my favourite authors. Now we're going to talk about what I think is my favourite read of the month. Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. Oh my freaking goodness. This book gives everything. It delivers at 101%. This book is amazing. It is not a short book, but it's not a long book. It is in the middle. The banter is insane. The connection between the characters as they get over time, the small town feeling. Oh my gosh, this book has everything you need, and it is just amazing. So this book is by Abby Jimenez, and I rated this like a 5 stars because it was so good. Definitely in my top 5 reads this month, and it's honestly amazing. If you haven't read this, please go and read this, because just spare yourself. It is so good. Now, this month has been really good for like 5-star reads. I'm not gonna lie, this is probably my least favourite read of the month. I rated this a 4.25 stars. It was nowhere near a 5 stars because I actually was so close to DNFing it in the start of the book. It got to about page 90 before anything actually hooked me. It was really boring, but because I knew it's like so popular, I was like, oh, I'll just stay with it. But I was dreading this. I was like, oh my gosh, I really don't want to read this. This took me so long to read because it was just not good. And then after page like 120, when I saw more about the main characters, I kind of liked it a bit more. I didn't really like the main character's sister very much. She was a bit too much, but I did like her at the same time. This book's a bit overrated, I'm not gonna lie. It was nearly a 4 stars for me, but I rated it 4.25 stars because I took it with a pinch of salt, and it was okay. Probably my least favourite I read this month. Wasn't my favourite at all, but go read it, I guess. So now I'm going to talk about the cheat sheet because all my friends have read this, and I kind of picked it up quite a while ago. It's been on my shelf for ages and it wasn't very long. This is quite emotional. There was a lot of tension between the relationship of the two characters, and it was a bit on and off. I did really like it, so to say. I rated it a 4 stars. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. A 4.5 stars. It was good. I will recommend, but I was kind of thinking it was going to be a 5-star read because I was expecting a lot from it because I've seen a lot of edits on it. It was a giggle-worthy book, I won't lie, but it wasn't the best rom-com I've ever read, but it was good. I'm not the massive fan of Friends to Lovers because it's not very interesting. It doesn't give much tension, and I love the tension and the character development in things like Enemies to Lovers. But Friends to Lovers is okay when it's done well, and this one was done quite well, but not very well. So, I mean, I would go read it because it's a TikTok-worthy book. But if you don't want to, I can't really convince you to read this one very well. But I really did like it, don't get me wrong. Okay, so the next book I got is Highly Suspicious and Unfairly Cute. This book is such a short and sweet read. I loved this book so much. 5 stars, immediate 5 stars. I could talk about this one forever. I actually love Talia Hibbert's books. It's the second one I read, and I'm definitely going to get the third one later in September. I absolutely love this book. It was so good. Definitely go buy it. It is amazing. It was so good, and it was just so sweet, and I loved the characters, and it was so easy to read, and it was just so sweet. I loved it so much. This is definitely like on the top 5 books I read this month. It was so good. I love this one, and I read it in like a day. It was really, really amazing. The next book I'm going to talk about is The Spanish Love Deception. I really enjoyed this one. It was really good. It had everything you needed. It's in the top tier of Enemies to Lovers. It was amazing. It had some fake dating. It was it wasn't cheesy at all. It wasn't sweet. It was hard on, like it was very serious. But Catalina, the main protagonist, is a really liked character. And then Aaron Blackford's also really cool. Not my favourite book boyfriend, but he is definitely up in the, like top 50 I've ever read. But it's quite a thick book. Again, I read this in like 2 days. It was really good. I really enjoyed it, and I just loved it. I love for wedding. It was amazing. And then when he goes to auction, that part was really cool. I really enjoyed it, and I loved the character development in this book. The author did well in this book, I'm not gonna lie. It was really good. Definitely worthy for its place on Book Talk. The next book I'm going to talk about is UN Honeymooners. So I reread this book because it's so good, and this will always be up in my top favourites. It will be in my top 20 favourites of this year, definitely, and it is so good. It has everything you need. It's not serious. It's sweet. It's cheesy. It's cute. It's so nice. This was like my romance era month. Last month was like detective thrillers and all that. This is my romance month. It was just so cute, and I loved it so much. It kept you hooked all the time, and I loved the honeymoon. All the adventures they did, I was so jealous. I was like, oh my gosh, that's me when I'm older. I absolutely loved it, and I love Ethan Thomas. He is so cool. One of my favourites. But he will never be Aaron Warner, obviously. But oh my gosh, this book just delivered everything I needed, and I will be rereading this one again. I read this one in a couple of days because I annotated this one. So like annotating takes quite a while. And it makes you read the book like 10 times slower. So it did take me like 4 days to read this book, but it was so worth it, and the annotating looks so cool. So I really enjoyed this one. If you haven't read it, I definitely recommend going and reading this one. So one of the last books I'm going to talk about is Things We Never Got Over. It was a really good book. I really loved it. It had everything you needed. Same way I've said that about literally every book. I really did well this month, I'm not going to lie. This book cover is absolutely to die for. The characters are so cool. I loved Waylay. I really liked Knox as well. I love Nash as well, and I can't wait to read the second one in this book series. In the Knock 'Em Out series, I really liked the main character as well. I loved the small town sort of vibes. I really do like small town stuff, and it was so worth the money. Like, I paid a lot of money for this book, but it was so worth it, and it's been on my shelf for like nearly 2 years, and I have no idea why I didn't read it sooner. Probably because I was intimidated it was a thick book, and I did accidentally crack the spine. Oh my gosh, I hate myself. But it was I really wish I read this sooner. Like, it was so good. If you haven't read this, I definitely recommend going and buying this one like soon. Even though I've said that about every book I've talked about today, but this was definitely top 5 in the books I've read this month. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about, like, I don't have the physical copies. As you know, I only have the first physical copy of the Shatter Me series. I did finish the last books off in the series, so I'm going to be talking about, I read, what was it? I read Imagine Me, Defy Me, Restore Me, and Believe Me. So that's 4, and I audiobooked all of those and ebooked them both at the start of August. So those were actually the first books I read, and just cherry on the cake to the series. And Believe Me is so good. So when I buy the box set for the series, I'm going to also buy Believe Me so I can have that and reread it, because Believe Me is so good. It's probably the best novella there was. Even though I liked the other ones because it had Aaron's point of view, I really enjoyed Believe Me. Like, it was so good. Believe Me was probably, again, I loved that book this month. And then I loved Imagine Me, it was really good. Defy Me was good. Restore Me was good. They were all excellent because this series is a 5-star series. There is not a single skip in this series, including the novellas, because the novellas just enhance like your experience in the series. So do not skip the novellas. Trust me here. But this series will always have a place in my heart. Like, I loved The Inheritance Game so much. Like, it's top 3 series like I've ever read, but Shatter Me has to come first. I'm sorry. Aaron Warner supremacy here, and Kenji Kishimoto. Oh my gosh. It was the best series I've ever read. It was amazing. It was an emotional roller coaster. And then I reread Ignite Me, so that takes me up to like 18 books, and I'll talk about the others in a minute. But it was so good. Oh my days, it was so good. So for the 19th book I read this month, I had to read Lord of the Flies for a school thing, so I finished this book. It took me ages to get through because I'm not gonna lie, I'm not your vintage, like, old book sort of person. So if you're on my channel like that, I wouldn't really expect like a lot of content on this because I have like 2 old books and that's it. This one was only because I had to for school. It was okay. Okay is all you're gonna get. I'm sorry. If you like this book, I respect you. I think you're very smart and wise, but I'm not very smart and wise. I'm immature. So I only rated this like a 2.5. It was okay. It was boring as hell, and it dreaded on and on and on, and it took me like a week to read this book, which is so long for me because it was just so bad. I hated it. I'm so sorry. It was okay. That's all you're gonna get out of me. It was okay. Okay, so the 20th book I read was One of Us. This is one of my childhood favourite books. It's about a bomb attack, about a 15-year-old spy. It's really good. It's probably one of my favourite childhood books I've ever read. Everyone was like, oh my gosh, Percy Jackson in this, like that sort of stuff. I was like, this one was probably my favourite. So if you need, I should probably make a video for like younger teenagers, but this is the book to go to. One of Us, by Jeannie Warbury. It is so good. It was amazing. Again, 4.5 stars. So that was the 20th book I read this month, and so I'm going to talk about the last book and then I'll wrap up the video. The last book I read was A Good Girl Complex. As you all know, this is probably one of my all-time favourite reads ever. It is so good. It has everything you need. I have no words for it because I'm speechless, because I've read this book like 3 or 4 times. It is just so good. I reread it again for my last book earlier on in the month. It was really good. I loved it. I need to get the 3rd book, which I'm planning on doing that in like a week's time when I go into town. So yeah, this book was amazing. If you haven't read it, what are you doing? Like, this is amazing. Once again, I loved it so much, and this book is always going to do me well. Again, I accidentally cracked the spine though on my days. Oh my gosh, that is killing me. But this book is just, it's amazing. It deserves way more hype. It is so good. It is so underrated. I loved it, and I love the characters. So to wrap up the video, I'm going to say thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe and drop a comment down below. How many books did you read this August? 21 was really good for me. Like, that's probably the best I've ever read in my entire life in a month. I had a lot of spare time this August. I really enjoyed reading all these books. It was amazing. I audiobooked for like the first time in my life quite a couple of times. It was amazing. I tried some online reading with The Hawthorne Legacy and The Final Gambit. It was so enjoyable. And anyway, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm so sorry this was like a shorter video. It's because I couldn't ramble on and give you spoilers. But anyways, I'll see you in the next one. Bye!